All right, welcome everyone. My name is Will Moss. I am the CEO of HBCU Connect. Super excited to have you all joining us for this special session where we're talking about power and policy, launching your career in advocacy and government with Luke Dickinson, Director of Communications and Marketing with the Washington Center. So Luke, if you're ready, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Fantastic. Will, thank you so much. Just want to give a big thank you to HBCU Connect, Will, your team, not just for inviting us to share with you today, be a part of your booth, but really really just for for all that you do in connecting across the HBCU community, the network, because it is something as we'll get into, it's something that is so powerful of those points of contact, points of connection, helping individuals go beyond the campus, their own campus, and helping to take that, what's been learned, what you're learning on campus into what I struggle with. I don't like to say the real world because we're always in the real world, but that professional world, right? It can be a daunting big jump. Before I jump in, I see Kaya Brown has your hand raised. I just want to make sure at the very start we acknowledge you if there's anything you want. Well, the hand gone down.
I
See, I've got.
apologize.
Oh, good. I've got eyes on. Look at that. Thank you for
Just
testing
checking.
me. I
That
needed
was a
that.
little test.
Yeah, I needed that. Excellent. So I love being the last session because I can come and bring the energy and wake everyone up, right? That's good. So I am Luke Dickinson, Director of Communications and Marketing. I am pinch hitting, full disclosure, pinch hitting for a colleague, a dear colleague of mine who is the HBCU alum, but unfortunately has no voice and a respiratory issue. So we are sending her big, good recovery vibes. So you get to hear my dulcet tones. My accent just to get that out of the way, so on this Zoom world. I'm from the UK originally, but I've been in the US for 28 years. Like our name, the organization suggests, we are based in Washington, DC, or Piscataway and Anacostan land. And so I've been with the organization since the end of 2022. And one of the big parts of my job and why I'm excited I don't always get a chance to share and do participate in things like this. But myself, my team, we've helped shape a lot of the new opportunities and particularly a lot of the ways in which the Washington Center has evolved. If you noticed the first slide on this, you don't see it here, but this year we are celebrating our 50th anniversary as the Washington Center. What we do as TWC, just to give you an initial kind of overview, we see ourselves at that intersection and that tipping point of college to career. So we find that every campus, all campuses have whether it's in an academic department, within an individual school, or institution wide, there are resources for career services and resume workshops, things like that. But oftentimes we found as TWC over the last 50 years, that can still feel quite isolated to an individual campus or even an individual community. If you're anywhere you are in the country or international, because we do serve international students as well. But that can often be shaped around a single area. What we do is we provide solutions for students to expand beyond that college campus and step into and find opportunity, access, networks, and particularly skills. We'll talk a lot about, you'll hear me repeat certain words, as I'm sure you can understand, but how to take what you've studied, to take that degree, to take those, in many ways, those technical skills perhaps, or those hard skills, and understand how to apply them into a professional setting. So that comes through in quite a number of ways. We've quite a few solutions. Our marquee solution, if it were, is our academic internship program, which is a whole semester or summer in DC. You come and you live in our facility. We match you with an internship. We have a wide range of employer partners, and you spend the time there living, working, learning. There's also an academic credit component for that as well. So that's what many people know us for that. But as we see, right, 50 years is a long time, and it feels like the last 5 years has been condensed into 500 years. And maybe even the last 5, 6 months have been condensed into so much more, right? Because of all the change, the speed of change that we see in academia into professional world is just it's going faster and faster, right? Student demographics are changing. It's not what people assume. It's not a 4 year on campus. That's not the norm. That's not the traditional student anymore. Students are demanding more on how they learn and how they grow. And so we've adapted to that. So we have short-term programs, which we allow kind of a career focus and in a microcosm. Different, we're moving into some place-based programs as well. So really, we're all about meeting the student in where you are in your journey from in that that academic into professional world, and helping you build those connections and those experiences that can help you thrive. Another amazing thing, as we are in our 50th, we're trying to do a lot of celebrations. We've got more than 68,000 alumni across the globe. So we've got a pretty exciting network and connection that we tap into. So that's who we are. And again, I hope you have a chance before the day end. If you haven't already, go and meet some of my dear colleagues and you can dig into more about how we work and how we operate. I'll also just, sorry, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, a lot of what we're talking about here is the work we do for students, but we also see ourselves as a solutions partner for employers. We offer access to talent and talent in a diverse way. And I know we have to be in this moment deliberate about how we talk about diversity, but diversity in all the way it shows up, particularly geographic, socioeconomic, education background, as well as race and other lived experiences, things like that. So one of the things is I went to university here in DC. Talking about internships was a huge part of what I experienced in my on-campus experience here at George Washington University here in DC. We're talking about internships. So many employers here, they just tap into the same people from the same schools. What we offer employers in the DC area particularly is access to individuals from across the US and the different ways of thinking and different ways of approaching challenges, solutions, things like that as well. So lots to talk about here for students, but also if you're an employer, particularly an employer in the DC area or even beyond, we'd love to talk to you as well. So keep that connections going. Okay, so we're going to focus today on this idea of turning passion into change. So this is, as we've set up, and as Will invite us into this, there are many ways infinite pathways that individuals can take in their careers. My background is actually in corporate communications, corporate PR, and I worked for large PR agencies for 16, 17 years. I had large corporate clients, for-profit entities, particularly in the healthcare space, and put my hand up in 2020 and during the pandemic, I hit a wall. I hit burnout. And I knew that I needed to adjust how I was showing up and where I was showing up in work. And I actually chose to move away from, or try and step away from that very corporate setting into more mission-centered. I felt like there was personal things that I wanted to accomplish beyond the skills and professional experiences I had that I wanted to get into. There are I'm sure many of you on this Zoom now, many of you on your campuses, in your community, in your family, who probably flip the other way around from me, right? There is first that idea for passion, for change, for advocacy, and a desire or that interest on how can one take that and build it into a career, a job, and ultimately into action, right? This idea that I think we talk about. People say oftentimes, what they say, it's if you love what you work, you won't really work a day in your life, whatever it might be. That can be great. You can have a lot of passion. You can have a lot of things that you enjoy. But if there are policy issues or advocacy areas, things like that, that really speak to you and really drive you to make a difference, that can become a career, right? It doesn't mean that it has to stay in that hobby. In this world in which we live, there is advocacy drives so much change and so much actions at many, many different levels, right? That shows up in many different ways. We'll get into some of those. But it's this idea that how does one build, uh, take that passion and find the ways to make that a tangible, real, and successful, sustainable career growth is what we want to get into today. Um, as you might imagine, the Washington Center, Washington, D.C., is where oftentimes where people think about where change happens, right? Um, and the different ways that people can show up. It's the Washington, D.C. is home to more nonprofit and advocacy organizations than any other city in the world. Obviously is home to the US Capitol and all the many, many lobbying firms and groups and organizations that show up there. These organizations typically work on the broadest range of issues that you can think of, right? From top level federal policy all the way down into grassroots. Like I said, individuals here, and feel free. I'd actually love to get that interaction in the chat here. If there are things that we're touching a couple on this slide, you can see just some of the areas that we often find our students are engaged in, our students are active in, and also our own employees, my own colleagues are active in their own community. But I'd love to get a sense on if you're willing to share in the chat some of those passion areas that you individually may be active in, may be caring about. I mean, if you just pick on any of these that you see on the slide, you can go down to such a small local, individual level, individual family level or community level to make a change, and that's what we view as, and what we see is such an exciting thing about this is that there is no one size fits all, right? There is no one singular policy. Even if you think about an umbrella area, you can drill into, and then of course even then intersectionality, right? Of the different issues, how these issues show up for certain demographics, certain populations, certain communities, domestically, internationally, all that. So it's this idea that you can take your passion, whatever that might be, and find a way to convert that into action and into something else. Let me just have a quick look. So health policy, access, and transportation. Thank you, Cynthia. That's I love that. More health policy, mental health, education, equity. The mental health and civil rights, arts, culture, and education. I love this. Thank you so much, Sydney, Joella. I see Axel, Giovanni. Thank you so much for sharing those. And it's again, I think something that, and I'll back to my story, my burnout is I felt like I was trying some of these areas. I was in that very corporate setting. I was trying to kind of help. I mean, I was often challenged of what are some of the issues we should be talking about. Within that corporate structure, I hit walls. So that's where I made my journey to move into this nonprofit space with the Washington Center to try and find ways to move that along. Okay, so kind of touch on this. Borrowing, Hamilton. Haven't watched it for a while, but that room where it happens, that song sticks in your head. There is no one place where this work gets done. There are so many venues where you can have influence at the DC level and then down below. So thinking creatively, think of those different avenues, find those connections, and understanding that you can have that opportunity in many ways is something that, again, back to if you are in a campus, on a community that has a certain area, oftentimes you might not know the different avenues to go through. So that's something that we try and connect people to. I do not want to come into this conversation, sunshine and rain, my head in the clouds, that it's not a difficult time to be thinking about a lot of this work. And that comes up in a couple of different levels. Number one is I'm sure something that you may have either talked about earlier today is there is that college to career transition has some of the greatest challenges that we've seen in decades. This data point about 50% of recent graduates consider themselves to be underemployed 1 year out, and then that stays 10 years out. That's a trend that is increasing. That's actually up about 4 or 5 percentage points over last year. So this idea that graduates have a degree, you're spending the money and investing the time in that college education, you have the degree, but then you enter the workforce and employers do not feel that those individuals are prepared to step into the roles that you want to and that you would feel rewarding and meet the level of the skills and the success that you want to accomplish. We have to also talk about the elephant that is in the room, the room where things happen, and that is something particularly that is hard for myself and us here in the DC community is that in this moment the politics landscape, how influence is applied is changing very quickly, right? Federal job cuts are real. The backlash on DEI from the federal level down into grassroots and everything in between is real. There is a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of concern about that. But something that we have to think about and that we tell our students and we tell ourselves, because our organization, we have federal partners that have been impacted by some of these changes as well, is that we can't overlook the fact that the mission that we have and the work that we want to and need to accomplish doesn't go away because of a change in administration, doesn't go away because of adjustments to how the federal government is structured and where funding resources come through. These topics that you all have put in the chat and that you think about in your day-to-day life, they need attention. They are some of the most important issues that individuals face. So we need to continue to find ways to step into those roles and be creative, adaptive, and resilient in how we find those roles. I also want to make an important point about representation, because that's something that is very important to us as with our mission, and so even some of the programs that we accomplish. Much of so if you think about where this is focused on federal policy making, some of these data points here in Congress, there is not true representation of the individuals who are in some of these senior staff roles making these policy decisions, shaping policy decisions, that is not representative of the true makeup of this nation. And that's a critical challenge, that's a critical issue, in that the lived experience and the understanding of what people need does not get connected through. And this is where it comes a little into that diversity in all forms and not just the simplification that unfortunately we do see, or as particularly recently has been talked about with diversity or DEI, is that is everything from, if we're drawing the same staff from the same schools in DC, then that's that group think, right? If you're bringing people in who even from different geographies, if they're not representative of different geographies or different socioeconomic communities, then that isn't getting put into the mix, and then that is going to impact the change in influences. As I said, this is focused on Capitol Hill, and we have this data because of certain programs that we run, but this can be the same at the state level, at the regional level, and then even into kind of the government areas of policy as well. So it is important that we think about that and we find avenues for greater representation in all those areas where these issues can show up. Section break, so I'm going to have a look if there's any questions. Any questions real quick? Hands up. As I look at my watch, I realize I'm running behind, probably.
Yep, definitely use the hands up feature if you have questions.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right, let's get into actions. Let's make it easy. Let's fix it, right? Fix it. I love it when my therapist says that. Just fix it. So what we focus on at the Washington Center, and again, this back to what I said is you have individuals. You are all either you're currently in, or you've recently come out, I imagine, of working through your degrees. Right? You have the paper, you have the diploma, you worked on hard skills, you worked on complex problems. But then we look at the data of employers don't feel like once you leave college, you get apply to the job, you land the job. Many employers, the data show that there is a misunderstanding of what they feel is on the paper or is invested in those 4 years versus what is needed in that job. And this is where we look at and we talk a lot about skills and the skills gap. Skills are the key thing that is skills that are traditionally referred to, I think often referred to as soft skills. Nope, I don't like that. Soft skills, they're universal professional skills. They're skills that are critical for success, for making your point, for engaging others, and for advancing what you want. And this idea of skills-based hiring is something that is growing rapidly. This data is from NACE, the National Association of Colleges Employers, and we think about those of you, I'm sure you the vast majority, if not everyone on this conversation, has gone through the job application processes, understood how resumes are screened and reviewed and things like that. It's understanding that getting into there is to focus on skills, to focus on the skills that employers want, is a key way of helping stand out and understand how you can break the skills gap, but break that underemployment gap, right? If you can show that you are able to connect with the skills and understand skills, and also keep skilling up, right? Keep advancing what it is you do, and kind of growing based on the environments that you're in. I'm sure you have heard this countless times today, and certainly recently, is the importance of network, right? I've heard it forever from family, from professors, from coworkers. Network, network, network. Number one, I find, how do you network? I'm a fairly gregarious person, as you may have gathered. I screech to a halt oftentimes when I want to connect with someone or network with someone because of the fear of like, what do I ask them for? Do I ask them now? Do I develop a rapport? Do I develop it later? This idea of networking as a skill. I think there was an earlier panel, or early session in the group in this that talked about networking as a skill, but also networking in different directions. That's something that we really emphasize as well. As oftentimes people think, I want that either that mentor, or I want to connect with the person with the best title that I can jump up into that role. Not denying that that is a great way, but that you are limiting the opportunities to cultivate a relationship with someone at that higher level. The peer networks that you have in the different cohorts in which you work and live and operate, whether that's on campus, in professional environments, things like that. This piece about those on the same level as you, your peers, will be hiring managers in the future. I've experienced that with friends and family, seeing how their fellow interns from past organizations have gone on. So understanding that a network is it's a 360 or a totality of different directions, and thinking about ways to kind of connect and grow, and how to make those asks of what you ultimately want to accomplish. The other piece is there's no one direction to take influence. If you have a passion, there is no one-to-one, I need to follow into a health. Let's say I'm passionate about health organizations. Department of Health and Human Services, painfully, yesterday, if you saw the news, they had a lot of, they went through their Doge rifts. The idea that going straight into that level is the only way to influence health policy overlooks that vast area of where you can show up and how you can connect. There are many different ways to identify areas of connection and of influence. And that is something that we, particularly in this moment, we're finding is shifting very rapidly. So relationships that we have that may typically have landed with, let's say, a federal government agency, if that has been drawn down because of federal employment initiatives, that gap is being filled, we're seeing, by state and local governments. It's been filled by foundations. Think tanks continue to be and always are a place where policy is drafted and research and put forward, presented to those of influence. as we see that federal government area being kind of drawn down in particularly in some of these issues areas, the role of those state and regional governments is gonna elevate. The even in like the public-private partnerships. So if you think about local regional hospital systems and the research that they're doing, as well as think tanks on certain topics, decision makers are going to rely on those external sources even more. And so that's an area where, as you think about where can you go, where can you choose to start applying for jobs or applying for next roles and building out those careers and connections, it's that broader avenue of what many of us expect of where decisions are made. It's not just on the Hill, it's not just at the federal level. The range of influence is across. And what we're seeing is there's going to be more opportunity for hiring for job growth in those areas. We've seen now one example. I saw a picture in the Washington Post yesterday of the digital billboards in Penn Station, New York, is all New York State is open for business. We're hiring. Right. Think about the transit of people coming through there. That Northeast corridor for those in the regions is that deep connection. New York State is taking advantage of these opportunities and say, we want the talent, we want the best and brightest. And so that's where, as alternatives, you think about where growth need is and where you can apply your passions. That's some of those different avenues that we're emphasizing with those that come through our programs. So I'm going to shift into about us because Will has been generous and said that we can plug our wonderful programs that we like to support. But I want to take a moment now to open up for any quick questions about some of the things we've talked to so far. Some of those different areas, so that whether it's the skills, whether it's areas you can kind of build into, anything that maybe we can touch on about sort of the status of how DC is and how the policy environment is.
But yeah, if you got questions, please use the raise hand feature, which is under React. You just hit raise hand and you'll come up on the queue. So Tharasia, you'd like to ask your question?
Yes. So thank you. I'm actually in the process of transitioning from corporate to or back to nonprofit. Especially for the reason that I want to do more mission-centered work. Um, and so yeah, I would love if you have any like tips, especially when it comes to highlighting like transferable skills on the resume and, narrating some of that story in the cover letter, or, what do you feel is most relevant right now in order to streamline that transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it reminds me of, so I said I've been in this role for going on 3 years now. And I, so when I stepped away and I started seriously, looking back into advocacy, into the more mission center world, I had no idea that I would end up in this environment. I didn't think that I would be no expectations that I would be in an environment that is focused on, personal advancement, career advancement, and particularly as our mission states, our mission revised, is those who don't have those established networks, perhaps, or don't have those established, those natural paths from whether it's academics, whether it's personal, where it might be, where I thought I would go into the environment. I love to hike and things like that, right? For me, it was looking at, because I was making that, it was, I needed to get a job. I needed to go move that in. It was more about what are the roles that are comparable to what I had been doing, and so that I can share not just the skills that I have, but describe successes that I'd had. And that's something that I think we often find is particularly if you're moving from either a different industry or a slightly different industry, people can understand, okay, this is what measures of success look like, or that I could comprehend are in what I've been doing for however long I've been doing it. My boss, my immediate boss, who I love dearly, has worked at the Washington Center for her entire career. She's actually an alumni. So she has a very clear understanding about what success looks like at the Washington Center. When I come in and say, well, I've worked on, I've done very similar tactical things and developed strategies for external communication and things like that, but I've done it in a very different setting. finding ways to share those successes in a concise way, in a clear way that can show a parallel is I think a very good way to understand, show that not only do you have the skills and the experiences, but here's how it can be directly applied into this environment in a way that does advance the mission and does work towards operational goals. So quick thought on that, and that's something we chat to the students about.
All right. Looks like we have another question. Again, if you have a question, please use the raise hand feature if you would. But it looks like Nia, you had a question.
Yes, similar to the previous question, I am currently in nursing and I'm trying to transition into policy. I feel like at the bedside, there's a lot of change that needs to happen, but I feel like I'm not really able to do it as a bedside nurse. And so I'm wondering if you have any advice on how to transition into that world. Previously, I talked with one of your colleagues to try and see if I could get like an internship at the Washington Center. I just wanted to know if you had any other advice other than what you've just previously said.
Yeah. Health is one, and this into my, as we advance the slide, another shameless plug is so something that we outside of our, our marquee internships, right, semester long. That's a lot of commitment in time and money and disruption of life to come away from campus, away from home to come to DC. So we've developed these short-term programs around 4 days that are focused more on growth industries, growth sectors, and we have a health policy immersion program later this September. This will be our second year of doing it, and so I was able to attend the program last year and engage with a lot of the individuals, and they're similar to just the same as you. There are many. Excuse me. There was a good mix of students who were either, half the room was maybe an MPH or a health policy focused individual, and the other half were like just as yourself, focused on clinical care. So with nurses, technicians, there was someone who was a emergency helicopter nurse, for the rapid response kind of thing. And so this idea of what I view, and even from my past of working in the healthcare space at the corporate level, is the knowledge of how the kind of almost the that ground floor level of how people access care and how people with different experiences and different locations, the challenges, the barriers that they face. That's something that if the policy has been made in downtown DC and by people who live in this area or on Capitol Hill, there isn't an understanding. There is oftentimes that gap in the awareness of what it's like in the actual clinical setting or in different communities, or how that works for different people of different demographics, things like that. So I think understanding how and being able to again package and communicate that, and it's again similar to what it is about why it is that transition, what you've learned and kind of grown into in the actual direct care setting, and how you can take that into the policy area and how you can use that knowledge to grow in other areas or advance different things, I think is a key way, a key part of doing this. This kind of answers both questions a little bit. Is an overarching theme is communication. What we find again is that communication is one of those universal skills that employers expect. It rises to the top of the list, and that starts from the job search process, right? That starts from being able to to talk about yourself, your personal brand, your experiences, how they have shaped who you are to this point, and then are shaping what you can accomplish now and then in the future. So it's something that we stress a lot, is shaping that story, whether that's your brand, whether that's your written communication, how you frame things out in an elevator pitch, in an interview, but being able to connect that kind of A to B to C of here's who I am, my passions, here's what I've done, and here's how it makes sense into where I want to go. That's it's kind of a story arc, and I sometimes lead a session with colleagues because I used to do a lot of brand work about what are the elements of a brand, right? McDonald's and Nike and all those spend millions of dollars to do it, to make people feel a certain way. Every individual in this conversation, every individual that you know can shape that for themselves. But it's about being able to clearly communicate that, what you want to accomplish, what you've done, and what you want to accomplish, and how that kind of moves in. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you.
Are there any, okay.
Yeah.
No, I didn't see any more hands, so I think we're good.
I'll keep an eye out for hands, but so yeah, so this is my not so shameless plug because I'm proud of it. It's funny when I first started working at the Washington Center, and, you know, we have a lot of in-person programming. We bring outside experts in to our building so that individuals who are in our programs can hear from those in the field, leaders in the field, hear different perspectives on you know, the ways of different jobs, how they show up. And I realized that I have my own network that previously my bosses in corporate PR would be like, oh, you should sell this thing into them. And I was like, I don't want to sell that, but I want to sell this. I want to sell the Washington Center because it is, for me, it feels like the opportunity for personal growth, right? That mission that we have is to extend. Listed here, the three short-term programs are ones that are coming up in the back end of this year. And again, they are focused on areas of we're focusing on areas of growth and of hiring, right? So where the growth industries of where people end. So health policy is across the country is health and health policy connected is a high growth industry. Capital immersion is a program, is kind of this is what we're distilling down of helping individuals get to DC to understand how policy and things happen, how they're shaped, and whether that's applied here in DC or back in a local community, where at the state house, grassroots, whatever level it might be, that's the opportunity there. And this last one, the leadership seminar, is actually, you know, this is something that will be new for us this year, but it is the idea of sustainability in nonprofit. So there are everything that's from you know, tax policies and financing and fundraising, right? The idea that you have this passion, you have this idea, you step into it, then how do you make that sustainable and successful long term? So these programs are based in DC, 4 days, housing included, and they're open to all. So some of our programs are only for those currently enrolled in graduate bearing degrees. These are open to everyone, and we often find we have a wide range of ages and experiences. People who have maybe left the workforce and are coming back, who are part of these programs. I would be remiss from talking more about internships and the academic internship experience. You know, the idea of internships, like I said, when I was at GW here in DC, it was sort of a given. And I've met with other students recently from American University. It's a given. It's not that obvious for everyone. It's not that easy for everyone to break into that. The fact of the matter is, just as the employment market is getting tighter, the internship market is getting tighter. So there's going to be more competition, but the reward for once you step in that way is very high. So you know, everything from kind of more job offers, things like that. In our program, we do guarantee an internship placement if you're accepted. We're moving towards this fully compensated model. Currently we're at 70%, but there's some financial compensation provided. There are scholarships, but this program is also it's open to enrolled undergrads because there is an academic credit bearing element to this as well. But this is the opportunity to get to DC, be part of a community of young professionals, use those networking things, use those career development opportunities, and kind of grow your career in those ways. What I want to leave you on, though, and the most important thing is every time I meet with a student, every time I connect with individuals in any of our programs, I feel excited and hopeful. It's easy to get dragged down with the news, and particularly in this moment. But when I connect with individuals who are outside of my bubble, who come into our programs, I get excited by the passions that people have and that drive to make things happen. So whichever pathway you choose, what I hope my positive pep talk to lead to is that stay curious, stay with people, stay resilient, right? It's a hard time about thinking about the job market at the best of times. It's particularly difficult, I think, in this moment. So keep growing. Internally, we have our own mantra about adaptability, resilience, growth mindset, because we need to keep thinking of how we connect, how we do the work that we do. But I hope that you will continue to don't lose that passion and continue to understand and know that there are ways to turn that into a successful first job, next job, and career. So.
I'm sorry. Are we good for Q&A, or did you have anything to present on the lab?
That's me. I just we're gonna land on a drum roll. This please do stay connected to me. You're my name. I'm on LinkedIn. I'll try. I've asked my colleagues who've joined as well. I'll try and pull some of the some folks have been sharing in the chat with LinkedIn and things like that. So please do connect. I love to connect with individuals, share ideas. This is, you can see, you can learn more about some of our programs that are coming up. If you have a chance, go and chat with my dear colleagues who are staffing the booth. But yeah, if there are any questions now, happy to answer. Otherwise, by email or whatever it might be.
Excellent. Any questions, please use the raise hand feature here in Zoom. It's under React. We've got a couple minutes for questions if anyone would like to ask a question. Don't be shy because we've run out of time.
Is it possible for you just to pop in your email or your LinkedIn in the chat so I can just grab it? I'm on my lunch break, but I am definitely interested in seeing what you guys have to offer for the government level. Also, I would also say, is the internships that you guys have, the 4-day immersives, are they paid? Is there a stipend, or is it just something that we have to do on our own and pay for the program on our own?
So thanks for that, the clarification there. The 4-day programs, the short-term programs, there is no internship component of that. That's just they're immersed, they're very hands-on, kind of boot camp style. There's the activities, there's growth. We do the Clifton Strengths exercise with everyone that comes through, and then there's opportunities for site visits to different areas of employment, whether it's the Hill, whether it's different businesses, and also we bring a lot of speakers to come and share their experiences, their backgrounds, as well as trends that are coming up in the whatever their focus is. Those programs, there's a cost applied for that. We do have scholarships that are available. Some of it is state-based, based on your residency, and then some of it is based on as need-based. Our other programs, the academic internship program, which does have the internship component, obviously, we have a variety of different funding options. We see about ranges on term, but it's about 70 to 80% of our students in the academic internship program do receive financial aid. So we have quite a few different ways to build into that. So.
Any other questions that folks would like to ask before we let Luke go? Luke, I did want to ask a question just out of my own curiosity.
Of
course. How did the Washington Center come about? And a lot of people may assume that you are somehow tied to the government, but are you guys an independent nonprofit, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. It often becomes a blessing and a curse to have a connection to the nation's capital. A city that I've lived in for 20-something years, and I love DC. I'm not sure I love official Washington anymore. For those who get the distinction, so we were founded by a couple, Bill and Sheila Burke, and it's interesting as I've actually celebrating our 50th and developing some content related to that. We're in a moment now of a lot of change, but it's a moment with a lot of uncertainty about professional opportunities, about career development, about the value of college, about, I've invested time and money and energy into this degree. Now what? Is that going to be there? 1975 was a moment that was kind of similar with the political environment and other forces, the economic environment. And so we were founded to, again, with that idea of helping to make those connections and bring people to areas where there's growth opportunities, where there's job opportunities. So that's how we've started. We've evolved in different ways. We've done a lot of things in the past that obviously do fall into more of that political kind of official DC area. But particularly since the pandemic, our organization got turned upside down. What we do got turned upside down because people weren't coming during the pandemic. People couldn't come, and we realized that demographics have changed to what students want and need. So that's why we've diversified our programs into these kind of smaller, more accessible, lower cost, lower time commitment programs. But also acknowledging that DC isn't just Uncle Sam like many people think it is. We're a tech hub. We're cybersecurity is one of the top employers in this area. Healthcare, other things. So thinking used because we are place-based. But I will say there are things coming that we are looking at going regional as well. So we're looking at doing things that are into different communities. Those, for a little sneak peek, don't tell my bosses that I talked about this, but for those in North Carolina, stay tuned because there may be something coming locally there, and we may try and replicate it as well. We actually we have a close relationship also with the government of Puerto Rico. We just celebrated the 30th anniversary of our relationship of a scholarship program with Puerto Rico. So we have, I mean, that's domestic, but often considered international, and then we actually have global partners as well in Japan, in Belgium, Canada, around the world.
Awesome. So, hey, let me be the first to thank you for presenting today, for sharing information on the Washington Center. And I'll give you the final word before we close things out. But to our candidates, I want to thank you all, to our attendees, thank you all for coming and for participating in this particular session.
Thank you so much. I'll take the last word by just thank you. You all, I said, whenever I meet students, participants, I get inspired. It opens my eyes, and like I'll say, with that resilience, adaptability, is really what we need, what I need every day, what we all need. But I hope I left you with some of that confidence that you can go on and thrive. So.
Thank you, Luke. We appreciate it. And to our attendees, thank you all as well for attending. We have one closeout session next. It's absolutely not mandatory, but we wanted to thank everyone for coming and kind of close out the event. And then the career fair will be going until 6 p.m. So there will be some of our partners at their booth spaces. So if you haven't gone in the career fair yet, this is your last chance. You got about 1 hour and 10 minutes to go to careerfair.hbcuconnect.com. Click on login at the top and enter your email address, and you should be able to go right into the virtual environment. Other than that, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you in the next session. Take care.
Bye.